March 1999, balance for OC Motors, pavement late model. Then in 2008, became a 360 sprint car crank, August 2008. Older than most drivers it races against. Moral of the story, take care of your stuff. It lasts. Hello and welcome back to the Cunningham Custom Engines YouTube channel. I'm your host Travis Cunningham and this is episode 10. Wow, 10 episodes already. Can't thank everyone enough for subscribing, watching, commenting, liking, sending encouraging messages, and Facebook telling me you watch. So many people are sending me stuff that I didn't think would be watching. So thanks to everyone. Into episode 10. This is going to be a good one. Been scraping episodes together. I can't wait to get rolling into the summer and show you some at the track stuff. Dying for that, but here we are still in February. But yeah, in this episode we're going to dive into Billy's engine. I've talked about that in previous episodes. It's our indestructible engine. It was my dad's first attempt at a sprint car engine back in 2008. Billy Evans, his son Pee-wee, had been tearing up the asphalt tracks his whole career from 1995 till 2008. And they won in every division, so it was getting a little too expensive. They were in the super late models, and they decided to go 360 sprint car racing because Oswego had just added them weekly. So this was my dad's first attempt at a 360 sprint car engine. A lot of the original parts are still in this thing, if you can believe it, way back from 2008. That's why I want to showcase this as kind of a cheap option to build a 360 sprint car engine. You can still build this today. I did a short, and it was that crank spinning, saying how this crank's older than a lot of the drivers it races against. That's totally true. A lot older than a lot of the drivers it races against. And I've even passed some of them every now and again last season. But yeah, this is going to be a deep dive into Billy's engine. Billy's a badass dude. WCS drag racing, NHRA winner at Cayuga, car owner, badass car owner. And he wants to race more, just more than me. That's, if you want to hang out with me and be in my race shop, you got to want to race more than me. And Billy does. So cheers to him. And this is his engine. Thanks for letting me use it the past few years. Up first, the block. This is a Chevy 010 block. A lot of engine builders don't want to really use these anymore these days, and I can totally understand that. It's a lot of work if you got to start from scratch, because I'm not sure if this was a 2-bolt. I think it was a 2-bolt to start, so you got to put the billet main caps on it and drill and do a whole bunch of mill work. But I know how to do that, so for me it's a little cheaper. If you're good with a machine, it's fun to put caps on a block, I'm not going to lie. But if you can find an old block with caps already on it to start with, that's even better. It's got to be under 60 over. Preferably like 30 to 40 over is best for these. Otherwise, the bores start getting a little thin. But this block is 155 pounds with caps on. A dart, even lightened. You spend all that money on the dart. Then you spend all the money to get it lightened. And it's still only like 185 if you don't get the super lightened job. You can get a dart SHP, which is a little cheaper, but you're still big money into it, and that one's still going to be only about 160 something when you're done. So this one's 155. That's the main reason they used them. Back in the day, if you find an old open wheel magazine with an article on an ascs, that they'll say they want to start with these blocks, but they're hard to find these days. But if you can find one, this is the perfect heart for a 360 sprint car engine, a budget build. That's what we're going for. This is the budget build. And yeah, it's a lot of work to get it going, but once you do, it's done. And my dad really went all out on this one and machined the pan rails down. Look at those sexy marks. And yeah, if you're a machinist and you got a mill hanging around, putting caps on a block, pretty fun. These are program caps. Get those in the Motor State book. But that's the block. 155 pounds caps on. So you're at a weight advantage if you use one of these. Up next, the crank. Cola crank. 3480 stroke. There's a manufacturer you don't hear that much anymore, especially in sprint car engines. But it's a nice crank. Been around a long time. 1999. Bob weight. 1640 for OC Motors. There used to be a great customer of ours. And then in 2008, Billy took it over. August 08. Remember, I'm pretty sure they debuted at the Sprint Car Nationals in 2008. That was the first year Oshweekend had weekly sprint cars. So like I said in that short, this baby is older than a lot of the drivers it races against nowadays in Southern Ontario, on the Southern Ontario Sprints and at Oshweekend. Glenn Stiers, Jamie Turner, me, John Burbage, running out of people that are older than this thing. But that just goes to show, if you take care of your stuff, it can last forever. A lot of super lightweight cranks will flex and stuff like that. This one's a little bit heavier, but in my opinion, on a sprint car engine, a super lightweight crank isn't that big of a deal. Like on a dirt modified, where a lot heavier car, or a late model with a transmission where you need that sudden stop when you get off the gas to help the car slow down, and yeah, I can see it. But a sprint car, you race a lot of the time, even when it's slick, with your foot on the gas a little bit, and in my opinion, it helps with throttle control a little bit. But there's our indestructible crank. Been going since 1999. I'm pretty sure it's older than that. So take care of your stuff. It'll be around a long time. And the piston and rod assemblies. These are JE Pistons. They were also made in 2008, and they've been in there ever since. The reason for that, usually I put 2 seasons on a set of pistons if everything's going good, but this block was already at 60 over when they started the engine back then. And like I say, 60 over for an 010 block is already at the maximum. So we would just do our best, cleaning the air filter best we can, keeping all the dirt out of it. And then every time it needed a rebuild, we would put a lot of nights on this engine, like 25, 30, no problem, every time. So every time we honed it, we would just do a 1, 2, 3 hone just to clean it up quick and then re-ring it. And these pistons have been going that long, I know. Insane. Not too shabby. Definitely run a little fat, but if you got it a little rich, you know. But if you got it a little lean, everybody knows when the pistons comes barreling out the exhaust. But total seal rings in it. Those are expensive. It's got a thick ring pack in it. This is a 1.5 mil, 1.5 mil, 3 mil ring pack. So it's got the small expanders on it, but the top and second ring are still pretty thick on these things. Gapless top ring. Those are definitely not on... Those are a little bit more money. You could put just standard rings in, like a standard Molly Young gapless set if you wanted to save a little more money. But those are the pistons, and I love total seal rings. Got to keep it sealed up, so. And then the rods. Pretty sure these were scats. And Billy changed them out one time when him and Pee Wee were racing it. They changed the rods out on one of their rebuilds because they rebuilt it a few times when Pee Wee was still racing. And so since 2008, this thing has changed out the rod once and hasn't changed out the pistons at all. I know, a lot of engine builders laughing at me, but if you're not racing at Knoxville, cranking at 9,500 every week, you can get away with a little more stuff, and it keeps you on the track with a little smaller budget. Up next, the cylinder heads. These were straight from Brodix, brand new in 2008. All legal port work done by Brodix, which wasn't much back then. I did that video on the ascs port updates. This is like 5 updates ago, roughly. But it's crazy. I found the bill, and there's what they cost in 2008. $1,780 plus shipping. Brodix heads with CNC chambers and ports, all legal port work. So these days, a bare set of heads is probably $5,000 US by the time you get done porting them and lightening them, and up could be even higher than that. So all to save a little tech were $3,000 more on the heads minimum. So, and these have been going since 2008. Done a couple valve jobs and 1 deck job on them so far. Crazy. That's how you race cheaper. It's definitely blown out of proportion today. I'd like to stick up for it, but this is how you race on a budget. These days, you can still do it. This engine passed a few fishers this year. It feels good when you pass the guys that you know got all the high dollar engines. It does feel great when that happens. So those were the cylinder heads. And how much they cost back in 2008. Up next is the valves and stuff. These are Ferrera hollow stem valves on the intake and exhaust. This is a way to have a lighter valve over the standard steel ones that aren't hollow stem. Over titanium, these are a lot cheaper. Back in 2008, these were only $250 a set. I can guarantee you they're a lot more than that today. They're probably closer to $800-900, but titanium valves will be over $2,000 a side. So that's a way to save some money as well if you're trying to build a budget ascs 360. We've changed these valves out, I think once already, and they're ready for another one. Exhausts are still okay, but the intakes margins are pretty low. I taught you about margins in an earlier video on the valves. That's right here. The ones I took out of the one-way heads were nice and thick, and use them again. These ones are getting pretty thin, and we haven't even ground them yet. So we're probably gonna have to put new ones in once we get this thing rebuilt. But Manly springs, and they're Manly titanium retainers and locks. And these days they have pretty nice tool steel retainers and locks that are almost as light as a titanium and are a lot cheaper. So that's another way these days you could save money in the valve train and not sacrifice any strength. But right here is a pretty cheap set of heads, and it can still hang with the big engines if you know how to tune it properly to have a nice smooth. I don't even look at the horsepower. As long as the horsepower curve is nice and straight between 6,000 and 8,000 at Oshweek, and that's all you need. So as long as it's 680 through there, you're going to be able to hang with the boys, especially when it gets slick. So there's some cheap heads that are still going. Up next, the cam. This is a Gertie cam. I don't have the cam card on it. James changed this. It wasn't the original cam. This one's even smaller than my dad. This was my dad's first attempt at a cam. He put one that was really big in it. James put one that was a bit smaller. This one's a 265, 270. Steve Huggins' favorite grind, and the one I really like to drive is a 262, 268. So we're going to toss that in when this gets rebuilt. So just an even smaller cam yet. Bigger isn't always better. It might win the dyno race, but doesn't win the race on the track sometimes. But yeah, camshaft, there's pretty much no way to save on that. You got to spend the money to get a nice roller camshaft from either Huggins or Comp or your grind of choice. Back in 2008, they were only $400. These days, they're pushing 800 Canadian. So they've almost doubled. And yeah, there's no way to save money on this. Just got to make sure you pick the right one, or you'll be buying a bunch of them. Lifters up next. These are ascs. Really nice. They're the originals from 2008 as well. Just keep rolling the rollers. Check for crunchy bearings everywhere, and just keep an eye on them. And I keep jamming them back in. They're actually tested to like almost 1 million miles. They do insane endurance testing on these things. A lot of people don't know that. Like for the Cup engines and stuff, these and Crowers are my two favorites. And RIP Ed Iskandarian, who just passed away, the founder of this company, this week at 105 years old. Crazy that he lived that long, and he was still really with it right up until the end. I know that. They used to do a video with him every year for his birthday. And one of the smartest valve train dudes to ever live. And these were his design. They're still in there. Going to go in there again when we rebuild it. Here's another spot where we can't save any money. You got to have the shaft rockers, in my opinion. These are the Jessels. They're the original ones that went in. So we haven't rebuilt these or nothing either. Just keep putting them back on, keeping them clean. Trend push rods on the exhaust. I think they're Manleys on the other side because these are taller lifters. You can run a really short push rod like that new motor that I showed you. They got like 8-inch push rods in. So 1.5 inch shorter push rods in this thing, which helps with valve strain stability. If you're turning at 9,000, 9,500 all the time, maybe you're going to want to change your lifters more than me and your valve springs more than me and stuff. But this engine's built to run the slick at 8,000, 8,100. And when it gets really slick, it's like 75, keeping it hooked up. So it's a lot less abuse on your engine. It's definitely a way to keep it going a little bit longer. So Jessel, my favorite rockers. Isky, my second favorite lifters. And Trend and Manly push rods for the valve train on the indestructible Built Forever Go engine. Gear drive and front cover. Pretty sure it's a Shaver Westmar gear drive. KSC front cover. That's the cheapest option you can get. Another thing that's probably doubled in price since we bought these, but it's also a thing you only buy once if you keep them nice. Timing cover and the gear drive. And I love the gear drives. They're a little bit more expensive than your typical chain and stuff. Sprint car, you got to have them because all the stuff hanging off the front. But you can get away with tighter clearances on the valve just because there's not going to be any chain stretch or belt stretch. So that's a little fun tip about gear drives. That's the oil pan for it. No expense spared there. Dan Olson. One of the best of the best. It's got to look pretty. I hate an engine with an ugly oil pan, so that's going to be a spot where I'm not going to save any money. But another thing, if you don't throw the rods out the bottom of it, even if you do, you can fix it. So you're going to have it forever. Dan Olsen tank to go with it. And there's the box of the front accessories and the mag. Got that mag from the Gertie I bought. I've told you about that. And it's been going for a while too. It's due for a rebuild though. I'm going to send that back to, I forget the name of the company in Pennsylvania. But so that's due for a rebuild. But another thing, lasts forever. The injection that originally went on it was a Dragon Claw from Kinsler. But that one ended up having an issue with filling one of the cylinders with alcohol. So we ended up rotating that one out. And we put an Angler on it that was an older one and ended up selling that this off season. So we're either going to put a newer Angler or this Raptor back on it. So these are definitely a couple pretty high dollar, nice injections. So definitely no money saved there other than I got this one super cheap. Well, like about quarter of the price. And yeah, injections. Pretty hard to save money there. But if I was going to try and build a super cheap engine these days, I'd find one of those one-piece Hilborns on the internet for $1,000, jam it on there, and get your ass out there and get some laps. That's the cheapest way to do an injection if you're doing a cheap build. And that's a quick look inside a budget, in quotations, ascs 360 engine. Billy's engine, my dad's first crack at ascs 360. A lot of original parts in there. And we've just been ringing and bearing it for almost 2 decades. A lot of the times your point money and you got some winnings saved up at the end of the year to ring and bearing it. So that's the number one way how to save money in motorsports. You got to learn about your engine. You just can't be like, it's the engine, I don't want to do that, and just call your engine builder and hound them and make them mad to the point where he wants to charge you more. And I've seen it all, and a lot of you are annoying when it comes to the engine builder side. So learn what bad parts look like. I showed you the valves especially. Maybe you can get a season or 2 out of them. Start questioning your engine builder. Maybe tell them, see, you want to look at the parts when they come out. Or just learn how to do it yourself. I know it's hard, but I'm here to help. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. If you got questions, give me a shout. That's how you build a AS3 S360 and pretty much keep it going on winnings and point fund alone. It's been going for that long, and she's still going, and she'll be going for probably another decade. I'm Travis Cunningham. Thanks for watching. Like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next week.